Alright guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today. For this one we are back in Tallinn in Estonia, which was quite a random and spontaneous trip. I got flights over here for £18 return, which I wasn't going to knock back. So I've come over here for the weekend to visit my good friend Einar, who you'll see in a second. And yeah, we're going to do as we always do on these out and about videos. So we'll do some beer tastings, we'll have a look at some of the food. And yeah, definitely nice to be back here, because when I was here last time I was interviewing N and Chris, but the whole place was kind of just shut down because it was a Tuesday. So now you're going to see it in its glory in operation. So let's do this, guys. The Põhjala Taproom at the Noblessner shipyard in northern Tallinn. Looking forward to this. Alright guys, so yeah, just to let you see the outside of this, you can't actually go up the stairs and just in the top door. So the tap room and stuff is on the top floor up here. Then this bit down here is like a kind of lobby and gift shop kind of thing. But yeah, this, like I said, is an old shipyard, and we're in the northern part of Tallinn here. So you can see these buildings were pretty damn old and they've been restored very, very nicely. But you can see all the new build stuff just kind of over there. I mean, what Estonia has done in about 30 years to rebuild itself is pretty awesome, you have to say that. The most digitized country in Europe and all of this kind of thing. But yeah, this is your entrance over here. So you come in here, and this is pretty cool. So let me just pause a second. So guys, yeah, when you come in here, you'll see they've got a lovely little bar over here, and this is the gift shop and things. So they've got all their merchandise over here. You can get some of the artwork from some of their more famous beers and things like that. And yeah, it's pretty nice. So you can see all these lovely t-shirts and stuff here. But yeah, it is pretty awesome. So I might have to get some of this merchandise, but it is pretty cool. But yeah, when you come around here, you can buy all the glasses and stuff like this. There's even more kind of hoodies and things like this as well, which is pretty cool as well. But they've got some beers here as well. So the Gone Camping, which looks pretty awesome. The Banger, Imperial Stout, the which is their original one. Imperial Porter Bananen, Barley aged Imperial Stout. Not sure I fancy that one, but yeah, Triple Barrel, Bele Bele, Imperial Goza, Pime Pur. That was, I think I had that one last time I was here. The XO, which is pretty cool. Mustkult Porter, which is like a honey sort of porter kind of thing. This one here, another porter. Gimme Danger Imperial Stout. That is a gluten-free Imperial Stout, so that's quite an interesting one. The what's that called? The Peel and Bean. I'm not sure. That should be quite interesting. And they've got some cans. It looks like all of some of their sours and IPAs and stuff are going in cans these days. So yeah, this looks pretty awesome actually. And there, you've got a 440 can as well, the Põhjala Lager. So yeah, there's the Pilky Pilsner, Sivla Session IPA, Cosmos New England IPA. I think we tried that last time I was out here. Helge, gluten-free IPA. There's the Toyo Collab, the New England Double IPA. Usmualim Session IPA, the Virma Lised O, the alcohol-free IPA, and the regular Virma Lised. So yeah, this is pretty awesome. So yeah, you just come round and see this little place, but we'll go upstairs to the tap room now, and there's more of the Põhjala artwork as well. But this place is absolutely massive, which you'll see. So yeah, let's go up the stairs, and this is pretty cool as well. So as you come in, you can hear the tap room now. But yeah, you can see the brewery down here. So they've got this lovely big Rolex brew kit. If you want to see this, of course, you can check out my Meet the Brewery interview that I did with N and Chris. But yeah, you can see here, and then you come upstairs and you're in the tap room. So that's it. Awesome place this. Yeah, we'll have a look at the tap list in just a minute. But yeah, if you come around here, you can see the kitchen over here. This place is of course famous for its American barbecue. And here we are. This is my friend Einar the bear and his wife Larissa. So we have our beer. Let's get started. Alright guys, so just to let you see the tap list at this place, I need to hold the camera steady because it's really zoomed in. So as you can see, some session IPAs there on the first couple of taps. Berliner Weisses, the Põhjala Lager, the Cosmos Juicy IPA, which has been around a while, the Cold Room Hot Rub, which is a collaboration with Tool, the Eike, which is a Rosa with Quince and Thai Basil. Not sure I fancy that, to be honest. The next one you can see, you'll notice that Põhjala are very good when it comes to like gluten-free beers. So they've got quite a few gluten-free and alcohol beers and things. So yeah, the Helge, the Orange Goza, the Verske, Wet Hop Lager beer, that could have been quite interesting actually. Virmalised, which I've reviewed on the channel before, that's an awesome one. The Mary, which a Goza with coriander and Himalayan salt. Põhjala Mustakurd, the O2, the Ö, which is their very, very first beer, beast of a beer. And then over here, they've got the just monster beers. So yeah, the XO version of Ö, the cognac barrel age, Peel and Bean, which is rye porter with cocoa nibs, orange zest, that would be awesome. Banana, which I'm not sure I fancy, I don't like banana that much. The Honey Lacquer, which is a barrel aged Imperial porter, honey licorice, root black currants. That sounds pretty good. The Banger, which is a kind of classic one, but I'm not a great fan of chili stouts. Triple Barrel, it's a barley wine which I'm looking forward to. I don't think I've had a barley wine from Põhjala before. And also the Gone Camping, which is a big Imperial stout. So yeah, some awesome beers to choose from here. So yeah, you need to come and visit this place for sure. Right guys, so as you could see from the tap list, there was a bunch of pretty awesome stuff. So we've ended up with 6 beers that we'll be tasting. So on the left we have the Lager, 4.7% ABV. Then we've got the Taproom Hot Rub, which is a New England IPA. That's in collaboration with Tool. Then we have the Virmalised. Einar will correct me on the pronunciation. Virmalised? Virmalised, yeah. So this is like Northern Lights, I believe. That's what it means, but yeah, it's a West Coast IPA. That's one of their classic beers. Then we've got the Triple Barrel, which is a big barley wine, and then we've got 2 stouts. So this one is the Ö XO cognac barrel aged version. Ö, of course, was their very first beer, Baltic Porter, beautiful stuff. They had that on tap, but I was interested by the cognac barrel aged version. And then the last one is just an absolute monster. So this is called Gone Camping, and I believe it's a blend of stouts aged in 3 different barrels. So it's got rum barrel aging, Scotch barrel aging, and also something called mezcal. So before I do the tasting of that one, I'll look up exactly what that is and we'll talk about that a wee bit. But yeah, 6 beers. So this will be fun. Let's do this. Yeah, hell yeah. Alright guys, so first little tasting then here at the Põhjala Taproom. So the first one we're going for then is just called Lager with 2 A's, because if you've ever studied Estonian and Finnish, you would see that it's just a competition to get as many vowels into the word as you can.
Hell yeah.
Lager, yeah, exactly. Hell yeah. But Lager with 2 A's. So this one comes in 4.7% ABV. As you can see, it looks pretty much like a Pilsner or a Helles, something like this. When it poured, it had a lovely little bit of creamy sort of white head on it. That's faded away now. But yeah, crystal clear appearance, not too much visible in the way of carbonation, but it looks the part of a nice Helles lager. So let's look at the aroma then and see how we go. So, straight away, I can tell you it pretty much smells like an authentic German Helles lager beer. You get that nice sort of wet white bready thing. There's a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty quality to it. You get a little bit of a kind of, you know, McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, but it smells like it's, you know, it smells like it's got a little bit of Munich malt in it. It's not quite got the crispness that you'd get of a kind of Pilsner or something, but yeah, malty side of the beer is pretty spot on. It's what you'd expect from, you know, one of the classic German breweries, Tegernsee or something like this. It smells very nice. Hoppy side of things, you've got that little bit of earthiness in there, but that's quite smooth. This is Hallertauer Tettnang hops that are in here, I'm pretty sure. It's not quite spicy enough to be like Czech Sats, which of course is very similar. But yeah, so wee bit of floral character, a little bit of a kind of wet, grassy sort of thing as well. And yeah, you know, you get a little bit of you do get a little bit of that kind of peary, appley, sort of grassy type vibe out of this one. It's exactly what you'd expect of like a German Helles lager, or you know, potentially you could say like a Czech Svetli lager as well. But remember, the Czech lagers tend to be more sort of kind of yeasty and bready, whereas the German ones are a little bit kind of crisper and things. But yeah, this looks really nice. So this one is the lager, emphasis on the A, 4.7% ABV here at Põhjala Taproom. Let's taste this one. Yeah, really solid, just nice sessionable lager beer this. So straight away with this one, you do get that nice crispness out of it. That's what you want. So middle of your palate, you get that little bit of bread crust, that nice, smooth, wet, white bready sort of thing. In the middle of your palate, you can feel a little bit of that kind of slightly sweet. You do get a little teeny hint of a sweet kind of caramelly note. As you go further out towards the edge of the palate, you get a wee bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So yeah, everything you would expect in the malt base. And the further you go into the aftertaste with it, it gets crisper and crisper. Absolutely. But yeah, that's a really nice lager. I remember being impressed with the Pilky Pilsner from these guys a couple of years back. But this one again, this is very, very nice. I'm going to say that to them straight away. This is a very, very nice solid beer. On the hoppy side of things, you get a little bit of that earthiness there, but as you come further forward, it has got quite a little bit of floral aromaticity to it, and it is almost a wee bit spicy. So I do wonder, could this be like Czech Sats Žatec hops? Wouldn't surprise me actually, because it has got a wee bit of bitterness to it actually. But round the front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of that lighter sort of grassy kind of thing, for sure. And the aroma, you get more of that the further you go into it, but this really does become quite a crisp and slightly bitter lager the further you go into the aftertaste. But it's definitely not a Pilsner, it is more like a kind of hoppy Helles lager for sure. But front third of your palate then, where you get these fruity notes. Front third of your palate, yeah. At the back of that, you get a little bit of that kind of dry sultana sort of thing. As you come further forward, a wee bit more oily and peary, and a wee bit of spicy apple. And behind that, you've got that nice kind of, you've got a little bit of that kind of grassy. At the front, at the very front tip of the tongue, you get that quite grassy, zesty sort of thing. But like I say, that's a really solid kind of hoppy Helles lager. So to round off then, mouthfeel wise, it's light bodied, you'd expect that. Carbonation is quite crisp on this one. In terms of IBUs, I think this is like 20-25 IBUs probably. So, you know, fair little bit of bitterness, and that's 20-25 is what you would find in Germany on these kind of beers, but I find this one a little bit more hoppy. So it could even be 30, I wouldn't be surprised, but malt base is quite smooth, good little bit of crispness to it later on, then you've got a nice little bit of an oily, fruity character to it. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about our first beer here. So yeah, the lager, 4.7% ABV. Here at Põhjala Taproom. Let's leave it at that for this one, and we'll go on to the next one in a second. Right guys, so the second beer then here at Põhjala Taproom. This one is called Cold Room Hop Rub. So this comes in at 7% ABV. It's a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, and this is brewed in collaboration with Torul, who are from Denmark, of course. We've reviewed many of their beers on the channel with their new big factory they've got out at I've lost the name of that place out to the west of Copenhagen now, the old fruit factory. But yeah, it certainly looks the part, as you can see. Lovely, very kind of bright yellow mango juice colour. This one, when it poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy, I would have said creamy coloured head. But you can see a nice level of haze on this one, a couple of carbonation bubbles visible, but it's pretty much what you'd expect from a New England IPA. Now remember, the colour depends on the type of malts that you use, the level of haziness on this beer depends on the oat and the wheat content. That varies from beer to beer, brewery to brewery. But from what you'd expect from a New England IPA, it looks pretty much as you'd expect. And we know that Põhjala can do these well, we know that Torul can do these beer styles well. So let's look at the aroma and just see how we go. I'm going to say straight away, that's really nice, and it actually reminds me of one of the New England IPAs that I tried from these guys last time, and the name's gone right out of my head. But straight away, you can smell this one. It's actually really nicely balanced on the malt base. You get a nice kind of smooth, creamy oaty note. You can smell a little bit of the dryness from the oats. There is a little bit of wheatiness there at the back of the nose. You can smell that bit of bitiness. But underneath, lovely, smooth, white bready notes. I'm going to say as well, there's a little bit of that kind of Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy sweetness to this one, but not too much. This isn't the sweetest of New England IPAs that you're going to have. And I mean, I've had this before with the Toro ones recently. I found that they tend to lean towards that more old school, oaty, wheaty, bready kind of thing, rather than being sweeter as many of the newer ones are. So that's not really a surprise. But on the hoppy side of things, the green component of the hops does take a bit of a back seat. There's a teeny bit of earthiness, a bit of bright floral aromaticity and a bit of grassiness, but like I say, the green component is not too prominent in these. Remember though, New England IPAs use late addition and dry hopping, so not a lot of bitterness in these beers. And so the green component quite often isn't as pungent in these as it is in West Coast IPAs, but you'll see this in a minute with the Vermelice that we're going to review. On the fruity side of things, it's quite nice. There's, to me, this one's quite tangerine and orangey, so I wonder if this is like mosaic that's in this. There's just something familiar about it. I think a little bit of mosaic, but there's a soft tropical note in this as well, so it could be something like Idaho 7. I mean, you get a wee bit of a mango, apricot-y kind of note out of it, but for me it's quite tangerine and orangey for the most part. So yeah, but the fruits overall are lovely and juicy and kind of fruity as well, so I like how this goes together. Aroma wise, this is lovely. Let's taste this. So yeah, Cold Room Hop Rub collaboration with Toro, this will be awesome. Yeah, Slanger 7%. That's really nice. Straight away, you get a lovely big kind of oiliness out of this beer. The mouthfeel of this is really very nice. But malt base wise, you get a little bit of white bread underneath. You can feel a wee bit of bread crust, but you can really feel the wheat kind of thickening out this beer. At the back of the palate, a little bit of wheaty bitiness for sure, and the wheat smoothens out the middle of your palate. On top of that, you get a nice kind of smooth oaty note. You can feel that right down the middle line of your tongue. Nice, smooth, creamy oats. It's a bit drier as you go further out towards the edge of the palate, and you've also got a little bit of that kind of, you do get a little bit of sweetness out of this one. When it's 7% ABV, you would expect a little bit of that kind of Werther's original sweetness, but the malt base in this one is really nice. Just dense enough, smooth enough, and it's got a little bit of bitiness. Just noticed that it's just started pelting down the rain behind me. But yeah, malty wise, this is nice. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a lovely little bit of earthiness there, and again, to me, that's a sign of mosaic. As you come further forward, you get some nice floral aromaticity out of the beer, like a big floral note to it, but not too pungent. Then round the front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of that kind of wet, freshly cut grass sort of thing coming out of it, and again, that's really, really nice. Fruity side of the beer then, the front third of your palate, it is what you'd expect. I do suspect this is like mosaic and something else, maybe like, you know, El Dorado or Idaho 7, something like this. At the back of that front third of your palate, you get a nice sort of oily mango kind of character. As you move further forward, it does become a little bit more sort of apricot-y. You get a bit of that dry character, but a wee bit of kind of pineapple and stuff like this, for sure, before you go into the aftertaste. But then on the front half of that front third of your palate, you get a nice, oily, juicy, tangerine note out of this one. And I think that's mosaic. I'm pretty sure there's a bit of mosaic in this, but Azaka wouldn't surprise me as well, because there is a wee bit of pineapple-y character out of this beer the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, on the mouthfeel then, to round off this review, you do get a nice, little bit of oiliness to this beer. Like I said, I would say that this beer is pretty much top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth, nice oily mouthfeel overall. In terms of, IBU, I think this is a kind of standard 30 IBU, something like that, maybe a little bit less. Malty side of the beer, very, very smooth, a little bit sweet, a little bit bitey from the wheat, of course, as well, and a lovely, juicy, oily fruit. A kind of balance between the kind of bitterness, balance between the kind of citrusy side and the more kind of tropical side of things. But yeah, the bitterness I think comes out of this a little bit further into the aftertaste. But that's a really nice New England IPA, but I'm not surprised when you consider the two breweries involved. Both Toro and Põhjala know what they're doing when it comes to this style. So yeah, this one was the Cold Room Hop Rub 7% New England Hazy IPA in collaboration with Toro, my second beer here. Let's leave it at that for this one. Cheers. So guys, just a little quick look at the menu then before we order the food. So as you can see, nice little selection of beer snacks here: pork rinds, beer nuts, fried pickles, Põhjala beef jerky, cheese and barley chips, Nashville hot style cauliflower. All quite reasonable prices. All of these are in euros, by the way. So yeah, as you go down here, different sandwiches. So you can see pumpkin salad, the gumbo. They've got kimchi johnny cake. Not sure I fancy that. Filthy bologna grilled cheese. That does sound quite good actually. Not a great fan of mustard, right enough. The classic Reuben corned beef sauerkraut. The extra large Polish hot dog. The double cheeseburger with fries. We were quite close to getting that earlier on, but we went with something else. Vegan burger with fries. The kids menu mac and cheese. Kids stuff's actually quite well priced. But on to the back. The speciality of this place is of course the Texas barbecue, because the chef, from what I understand, is American and his wife is a pastry chef too. So yeah, you get brisket, sausage, pork short ribs, a smoked half chicken, a 3-meat platter for 1, the feast for 4, which is quite good value when you look into it, but a lot of food. You've got the sides, the hand-cut fries, the kimchi coleslaw, bread and butter pickles, the mac and cheese, the elote, and you've also got the desserts as well. So potted dessert, that's the one, I think that's Hannah is the main chef's wife. But yeah, the Põhjala ice cream, the cookie sundae for 2. So yeah, let's see what we get out of these. We might have to try quite a few of these, but a nice menu here and fairly reasonably priced as well. Right guys, well, third beer tasting then here at Põhjala Taproom. So for this one, we are going to go for one of the Põhjala classics. So this is the Virmeliset. Did I get it right? Yeah. Einar says I got my pronunciation right. I'm getting better at Estonian. But this one is 6.5% ABV, and it is their old school West Coast IPA. Now, I reviewed this beer out of the bottle the last time I was in Estonia, and I know this is a good one. So when I saw it on tap, you guys know I love a West Coast IPA. I just kind of had to go for this one, you know. But yeah, as you can see and as you'd expect, lovely kind of rich dark yellow colour. This one, sometimes of course West Coast IPAs can be a little bit more ambery leaning, but when this one poured, I had about a half finger of a frothy, I would have said cream coloured head. That's faded away to be pretty much nothing at the moment. But as you can see, this one is crystal clear, but it certainly looks very, very nice for sure. So let's have a closer look at the aroma with this one then and just see how we go. Yeah, this one, I remember this about this beer. It has this really like limey, sprucey, pine needly sort of thing to it. It's just a really, really distinctive smelling beer. It smells lovely, this one, but let's break it down a bit more. So, backbone of this beer, you do get a little bit of bread, you do get a little bit of breadiness in it. It's a little bit of an almost brown bready character that you get in this one, but the malt base, in fairness, is actually quite sweet, I find. So there's a wee bit of caramel. Yeah, there's a wee bit of caramel in there. There's a wee bit of there's a wee bit of biscuit as well. But then yeah, a little bit of brown bread, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of biscuit. It actually leans a lot towards that caramelly McVitie's digestive biscuity side of things. It's actually quite an oily and sweet malt base that you get out of this. But the hops in this one, like I say, are quite nice. On the green component, you get a little teeny bit of earthiness. There's quite a bit of floral character with this one, and I actually find it quite zesty on the grassy side of things. It's got a nice wet, freshly cut grass to it, but it's also quite a zesty, limey note that you get out of this one. So I do like how that goes together. That is quite nice. On the fruity side of things, like I said, I find this beer really, really limey. You know, I'm trying to figure out if there's a little bit of like a tropical note behind that, you know, a little bit of mango or passion fruit or anything, but it's really not coming out to me. This beer is really straight up lime, so maybe this is like a bunch of Equinaut or Malteke from New Zealand or something that's in this, or Motueka, sorry, not Malteke, Motueka. A little bit of Motueka, or as I say, a little bit of Equinox that's in this. It really is a big limey, oily note that you get out of this. Maybe there's a wee bit of a kind of dried pear and apricot or something in behind it. But yeah, for me this one is lime all the way. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go. This is the Vilmalissed 6.5% ABV West Coast IPA here at Põhjala Taproom. Slange Televisions. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Again, it's a big oily, citrusy leaning IPA, this one. Now it's a West Coast IPA. I will say at this point in time, it does still have some of the old school characteristics, but it is leaning towards that kind of new, less bitter side of the what we expect the West Coast IPAs today. So yeah, let's break this down again. So malty backbone, a little bit of bread crust for sure, bit of a smooth brown bready sort of thing, absolutely, you do get a little bit of that. But on top of that, in the middle of your palate, you get a circle that's like a straight up oily, sweet caramel there, so you can get that. And as you go out towards the edge, that edge of your palate there, you get a little bit more of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. But like I said, this beer, I would say that this one at 6.5%, it actually feels a little bit boozier than it is. You could tell me that this one is like 7.5%, and I would believe you. The malty side of this one does have a fair little bit of oiliness to it, which is quite interesting. So yeah, let's have a little look at the hoppy side of things then. So, hoppy side of the beer. Back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there, and as you move further forward, it's a little bit kind of floral and aromatic, for sure. But it's not, as I say, it's not overly bitter, it's not overly spicy, it's quite an oily floral aromaticity, but at the same time it does actually go quite deep in that sense. But around the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassier, there's a wee bit of zestiness coming out of it, but again it's quite an oily, grassy character you get from this one. This whole beer is just big and oily to me. But let's look at the fruity side of it. Yeah. Front third of your palate is kind of what I was picking up. So for me, at the back of the front third of your palate, in the flavour, now that it's developed in my palate a little bit, I do get some sort of like mango-y, apricot-y, dry apricot-y sort of thing. So there maybe is a little bit of Citra in this one as well, I would think. Maybe this is a Citra Equinox beer, I wouldn't be surprised with that. But yeah, a little bit of a kind of mango-y quality to it. The back quite oily, as you say. As you go further forward, you get a little bit of that dried apricot-y sort of thing. Then as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's definitely more oily and limey for sure. But this is quite a big citrusy, zesty West Coast IPA. Mouthfeel-wise, mid-bodied, pushing towards the top end of mid-bodied, smooth carbonation, big oily mouthfeel. Bitterness-wise, I think that's got to be about 60-ish IBU, 60, maybe 70, so not a big 80, 90 IBU beer. But the other thing you're getting out of this, you do get a little bit of a kind of spruce tippy, pine needly sort of thing out of this beer. And that I think is what's given the floral aromaticity a kind of oiliness. If they have added spruce tips into it, that tends to do it, because the further you go into the aftertaste, you will get a wee bit of woodiness out of this beer. But like I say, big oily fruits, smooth malt base, slightly oily. It's just nice, this. So let's leave it at that for this one. This is the Vilmalissed 6.5% ABV West Coast IPA, one of the classic Põhjala beers that you do need to try. Catch you guys in the next one. Alright guys, well, beer tasting number 4 then at Põhjala Taproom, and for this one we are going to start moving on to the heavies. So we're going to the Cellar series, which I thoroughly recommend you check out if you haven't already. But this one is the Triple Barrel. It comes in at 13% ABV, and this one is a blended multi-vintage barley wine. So yeah, this should be pretty damn good actually. So as you can see, this one's poured a lovely pretty much dark ebony kind of rosewood colour. One of the darkest barley wines I've come across. Now remember, barley wines tend to have very, very long wort boils, so you're talking at least 6 hours of a wort boil here, potentially even more. But when you barrel age these beers, that's going to affect the colour as well. But this is certainly one of the darkest barley wines I've come across. You can actually just see it's got a very light, it's got a very, very kind of slight, very dark ruby hue to it. But when it poured, it had just a little thin layer of a foamy, I would say kind of fawn, beigey coloured head. But of course, when it's 13% ABV, that head is not going to hang around for very long. But beautiful looking beer, this one. Just lovely looking stuff. So let's look at the aroma then and just see how we go with this. Aroma wise, that is just beautiful. I mean, backbone of this beer, you can smell that lovely smooth oakiness. You get a bit of vanilla out of it. There's a lot of that kind of sultana, kind of grapey sort of thing to this as well. It smells lovely, almost as if it's cognac barrel aged. But one of the other beers we have later on is cognac barrel aged. But this one is definitely the barley wine. I've checked that. Yeah, the aroma from this one is lovely. So lots of big treacle molasses kind of notes out of this one. But it's still quite sweet. You get a lot of sweet caramel in there, and it's quite leathery at the same time, and that's how you know this beer has had a very long boil. When you start to get a big leatheriness out of your brown sugars, that's how you know there's a long boil in there. So yeah, big smooth brown ready sort of thing as well. You do get a little bit of that, but that can be quite common with barley wines. So I'm curious to see whether this is going to be more of an American or an English barley wine. It might be something in between. But yeah, oaky wood, vanilla, bit of brown bread in there, big treacle molasses notes, sweet caramel, a little bit of a kind of toasty brown sugar as well. That's what you would expect of the malt base of a barley wine. On the hoppy side of things, not too much to report on the green component, but remember, when it's a barrel-aged beer, much of the hoppy character is going to drop out of it. You do get the remnants of a slight little bit of earthiness. There's a little bit of kind of floral aromaticity in there and a wee bit of grassiness. I suspect that there's been a little bit of Cascade or Chinook or something put in this beer, just from the way the green component is. And remember, those hops are the ones that can give you these really lovely dark fruit flavours in these big beers. But on that fruity side of things, it's interesting because you get this sort of, you get a little bit of cakiness out of this beer, like a dried fruit cake, but you also get that big kind of pruny, raisiny thing. So you get the raisiny sharpness, the kind of dried prunes underneath. There is a wee bit of like a more sultana quality to it as well, and just some kind of black curranty blackberry notes, but it's mainly a dried fruit cakey note you get out of this. But the aroma of this is awesome. They had bottles of it downstairs, so I might need to get a bottle of this to take away for me and keep for like a special review. We'll need to see. But yeah, this one is the triple barrel, 13.6% ABV barley wine. From Põhjala here in Tallinn. Slange services. That's a beautiful, beautiful beer. That's just ridiculous. But you know, when it comes to high ABV and barrel aging, Põhjala are difficult to beat. I mean, Estonia's quite spoiled for this. They've got Puhasta down in Tartu as well. And Ulenalt as well know what they're doing when it comes to barrel-aged beers. This is ridiculously good. Well done to Põhjala on this. Lovely stuff. I don't think I've tried a barley wine from Põhjala before this actually, so that's also worth knowing. But yeah, backbone of this beer, straight across the middle of your palate, that smooth, oaky, woody character. It gets a bit dry towards the back of the palate, but further forward you get a little bit of vanilla out of it. On top of that, a bit of a smooth brown bready character, for sure. And I will say straight away, this is a little bit more of an American barley wine for sure. But on top of that bready there, you get the really thick, highly caramelised, leathery brown sugars. You can definitely get that. And again, it gets a bit drier towards the back of the palate. On the sweet, in the middle of the palate, you do get a little bit of a straight up sweet caramel there. And as you move out towards the edge, of the palate, you will get a little bit of a toasty kind of brown sugary thing there, and that lingers the further you go into the aftertaste. It really is very nice. This is potentially one of my favourite beers I've had from Põhjala, but these guys know what they're doing with the malty side of things. On the hoppy side of the beer though, there's not too much to report on the green component. Smooth earthiness there as you come further forward, maybe a little bit of herbal character, remnants of a little bit of floral aromaticity on the front corners of the palate, round the front curve of the palate, wet grassiness again, and again it's quite oily. But just behind that you've got a lovely big kind of cakey note to it. There is a little bit of that kind of dried fruit cakey element in there, and then you get the raisiny sharpness, you get that dry sultana type note out of this, that dried white bean grapey character, some dried apricots and things as well. Then as you move further forward on the palate, you start to get some of these oily kind of peary notes, but definitely some figs in there as well. The fruity side of this beer is just lovely. A little bit of blackcurrant, a little bit of a wet blackberry in the end, but you get a lot of dried fruit cakey notes out of this beer. This is ridiculously good. This will make you very merry if you get a full bottle of it to yourself. But yeah, it's awesome this. Let's round off with the mouthfeel then. So definitely this is a full-bodied beer. You can tell though that it's barley aged. I'd be curious to try the original barley wine that went into this, because remember when you barrel age something, to get the infused flavours, the mouthfeel drops away a little bit. But this is definitely a full-bodied beer, smooth carbonation, big oily thing. IBUs I don't think are very high on this at all, maybe 20 or something like that. You do get a wee bit of dryness to it, a lovely smooth malt base, a bit of dryness as well, big sweetness in there, and just lovely oily fruits. But this is an awesome beer. The triple barrel, 13.6% barley wine. Another one of Põhjala's Cellar Series beers. Ridiculous. Try the Cellar Series if you haven't done so already. Let's do another one in just a second. Cheers just now. So guys, this is the food that we ordered. On the left here we've got the brisket, we have the ribs here with the fries, the big sausage and the mac and cheese, and they all come with this kind of sauerkraut sort of stuff. But yeah, we're hangry, so let's get stuck in.
We are super hangry.
Super hangry, super hangry. This is going to be awesome. Alright guys, well, tasting number 5 then here at Põhjala Taproom in Tallinn. So for the next one, we are going to go for the XO. So of course, was the very first beer from Põhjala, and it was an Imperial Porter, 10.5% ABV, but the one that we're having a look at now, the XO version, this is the Cognac Barrel Aged edition, comes in at 11.5% ABV, and if memory serves me correctly, I don't think I've tried this one. I have tried on the channel for you before, but I'm pretty sure not this particular version. But anyway, as you can see, and as you would expect from an Imperial Porter, it's poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. When it poured, it had about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would have said like medium beige tan head, but that's faded away to be pretty much nothing. When it's 11.5% ABV, again you would kind of expect that though. But yeah, not much visible carbonation in this particular beer. But yeah, let's take a look at the aroma and see how we get on, because there's nothing really surprising about this beer when you consider what it actually is in terms of its appearance. But yeah, this smells really nice. Straight away you get that lovely big cognac barrel aging out of it. Now cognac barrel aging always gives you this big, cakey, this sort of big dry, cakey, fruity sort of thing, and you can smell that right away. So the backbone of this beer, you can smell that lovely kind of smooth oaky note for sure. There's definitely a little bit of vanilla in there. Then you get all these dried fruits, you know, the prunes, the dates, the figs, the sultanas. You get all of this out of this beer straight away. Then that brown bready, fruit cakey sort of thing. It's just lovely. On top of that, there's a wee bit of a kind of you do get a little bit of that kind of dry cocoa nib sort of thing, so you can smell that cocoa nibby chocolate. Definitely a wee bit of a brown sugary note as well, so you can get a wee bit of sweet caramel out of this, but at the same time the brown sugars are pretty toasty for sure, and you almost get a little bit of leatheriness out of this one. I'm not 100% sure, but if I remember rightly, this the original actually gets quite a long wort boil. But yeah, they had the original one on tap as well, but I just fancied the cognac barrel aged one because I don't think I've ever seen that before, and cognac barrel aging is just lovely. And again, this is part of the Cellar Series, I should point that out. But on the the malty barrel aging side of things. This is absolutely lovely. Big brown sugary notes, smooth cocoa nib chocolate, a wee touch of brown bready character as well, and then a lot of kind of oaky woodiness and stuff. It just smells awesome. It smells like a really, really nice beer, this. So yeah, let's take a look at the hoppy side of it then. And I would say, again, there's not too much to report. Just remember, when it's a barrel-aged beer, much of the hoppy side of the beer, the hoppy side of things will have dropped out. So you do get a little bit of earthiness, there is a little bit of floral coat, and there is a bit of grassiness, but other than that, not too much. Now on the fruity side of things, you get quite a lot of sharp raisin out of this one to start out with. So yeah, sharp raisins in there. Definitely a little bit of blackberry for sure. Again, this is quite a bit sharper than the barley wine that we've just had. But yeah, sharp. Yeah, sort of sharp. Sharp. Yes, sharp blackberry sort of things. Underneath that, you get a little bit of the kind of datey, figgy, pruny sort of thing. Absolutely. And then I also get just a little bit of black currant too. So everything that you kind of expect from a big barrel-aged porter. So I think it's about time we have a taste of this one and see how we go. So yeah, this one is the XO 11.5% cognac barrel-aged Imperial Porter, Slanja Terraces.
Slanja.
That's a really sweet Imperial Porter. It's actually really very, in the impact it's very sweet and oily, but then in the aftertaste it lets you know, yeah, this is an Imperial Porter. Extremely smooth, this one. And again, beautiful beer. As I've said to you, Põhjala know what they're doing when it comes to these big malty barrel-aged things. That's awesome. That's ridiculously good. So, to break this down then, across the middle of your palate, lovely big smooth oaky woody notes. Towards the front of the palate you get a bit more vanilla out, a bit further back you can feel the wood dries out a bit. On top of that woody character though, you can feel the toasty black malts coming out of this one. This beer does get really quite dry into the aftertaste. The bready notes I was picking up in the aroma don't show in the flavour that much, so yeah, roasty, toasty, black malty backbone in there. In the middle of your palate you've got that big caramelised brown sugar in there, and it actually gets sweeter and sweeter the further you go into the aftertaste for sure. So you can feel this circle in the middle of the palate where you get a very big sweet caramel out of it. It's quite oily as well, but as you go out from the centre of your palate towards the edge, it has got a little bit of that kind of very toasty, brown sugary sort of thing. So you get a nice kind of toasty note out of this. But you can also feel in the middle of your palate, on top of the vanilla notes, you start to get that dried, fruity character that you always get from cognac. Cognac is lovely. It's a lovely spirit, but I've not had it too often, but the ones I've had, I've really enjoyed. But yeah, this is a lovely beer from the malty barrel aging side of things. But the further you go into the aftertaste with it, you get more and more of that roasty, toasty black malt of it. And of course, that is the sign of an Imperial Porter or a Robust Porter, whatever you want to call it. Let's look at the hoppy side of the beer. Yeah, hoppy component, the green component, there's not too much to report here. Back corners of the palate, it's a little bit earthy, and that earthy bitterness does build actually, and it builds a good bridge with the roasty toastiness. As you come further forward, it's a little bit herbal. As you reach the front corners of the palate, there is a little bit of a floral aromaticity there, but you can feel the bitterness in this beer. And then round the front curve of the palate, a little bit lighter and grassy. On the front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll the way out of the beer. You can feel at the very back of that there's some nice cakey notes there, a bit of toasty bread crust underneath, with the fruity notes, some sharp raisins, a good bit of datey pruny character underneath. Then you get the dry sultana kind of notes coming out of it further forward, and then you get the kind of oily fruity notes there. You get a little bit of figgy character, some black currant, and also the kind of sharper blackberry notes going into the aftertaste. But this is lovely. On the mouthfeel side of things then, again it is full bodied for me, but bottom end of full bodied, smooth carbonation, big oily mouthfeel to be honest with you. In terms of IBU, I think this is maybe about 70 IBUs, 60-70 IBUs. but that comes out more in the aftertaste. The malt base, as we said, is a mixture. You get a bit of toastiness out of it, a bit of smoothness and a lot of sweetness. Then you've got those lovely big oily fruity characters as well. But that's a beautiful, beautiful Imperial Porter, this one, and the cognac barrel aging just fits with it so well. But yeah, this one is the XO Cognac Barrel Aged Edition, 11.5% ABV, our penultimate beer tasting, and we do have a bit of a monster for the last one. So catch you guys in a second with that. Hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure you try this Cellar Series, by the way. Just awesome stuff. Alright guys, well, final tasting then here at Põhjala Taproom. So the last beer that we're going for is a bit of a monster. This one's called Gone Camping. Comes in at 11.5% ABV, part of the Cellar Series again. It's a big Imperial stout. It's aged in Scotch whisky barrels, rum barrels, and then something called mezcal. We have to look up what mezcal is. It seems to be something like tequila but with agave, so we'll figure this out as we go. At this point, not caring that much as long as it's a good beer. So yeah, as you can see, it's poured lovely sort of dark ebony rosewood colour. When it came out, got a quarter finger of a frothy kind of beige tan head. But yeah, not a lot of carbonation visible in this one. As you can see, it's pretty much just as you would kind of expect for an Imperial Stout. There's nothing overly surprising about this one. So yeah, these guys we know do Imperial Stouts really well. So let's have a look at the aroma of this one and see how we go. I should also point out, this is a collaboration with Brewery from Stavanger in Norway, who we know do some awesome stouts too. So this is pretty exciting. Two very good stout breweries combining for this one for our last tasting. But let's look at the aroma. Yeah, that's pretty damn awesome. So on the backbone of this is a nice, smooth, oaky, woody character all the way. You can definitely get a mix of everything in there, so you get that lovely kind of vanilla note from the rum. You get the sort of, pardon me, brown sugary elements in there as well. But you can also smell a little bit of the kind of toastier, smokier Scotch barrel aging as well. Now remember, as I always say, you have to be careful with Scotch barrel aging, because if it's aged for too long or whatever, it can take over a beer. This has been aged for 11 months. I think they've done 3 batches of this beer, blended it, put it in the different barrels, and then blended it after 11 months. So as far as I know, that's how it went with this one. But the mezcal, I really have no idea about. I mean, you can smell a little bit of a sort of herbally thing in the backbone of this. It's not a million miles away from tequila, but yeah, you can smell that. So you've got the brown sugars from the rum, the sort of smoky character from the Scotch whiskey, and you've also got that kind of herbally thing from the mezcal, tequila, whatever it is. But on top of that, there's some lovely big brown sugary notes in there, big sweet oily caramel. You also have, you've also got a nice kind of, just, you know, it's a big sweet caramel. You got a bit of toasty caramel underneath, but big oily notes out of it. It's almost got a little bit of leatheniness to it, but not too sweet. 1 or 2 little nutty elements as well. And you also get some nice kind of cocoa, chocolatey sort of things as well. But yeah, the malty barley side of this beer is lovely. On the hoppy side of things, again, not too much to report. A little bit of earthiness, wee bit of floral notes in there. The remnants of a floral note. It's quite smooth actually. A little bit of smooth grassiness. But other than that, green component, not too much to report on this one. So yeah, the hoppy side of this beer, I think, is pretty nice from that regard. But on the fruity side of things, it's got a lovely kind of juicy, pruny character to it, this one. You definitely get some nice kind of, you definitely get some nice sort of cakey elements. It's got a little bit of that kind of, how would you say, dried sultana, cakey, pruny sort of things. So yeah, a bit of raisiny sharpness, bit of prune, a little bit of a cakey element. Then you've also got some nice figgy qualities, a little bit of an oily blackcurranty blackberry. Yeah, aroma of this is very, very nice, I have to say. So this will be pretty awesome when we taste it. So let's go for it. This one, gone camping, barrel aged, Scotch whiskey, rum, mezcal, barrel aged, Imperial stout. Let's taste this. Slange at school, terrible sex. There we go. That's really nice. I mean, it's quite smooth, but at the same time, it does have a wee bit of bite on the backbone. So let's break this down. Across the middle of your palate, lovely, smooth, oaky, woody character. Wee bit of vanilla in there. Gets a bit drier towards the back of the palate for sure. On top of that, you get the kind of toasty, black malty backbone, absolutely. And then on top of that, you get a little bit of breadiness. There is a wee bit of that toasty, well-fired, brown bready character. Middle of your palate, you get that nice circle, lots of toasty, sweet caramel in there. It's not too leathery in this one, I should point out, quite a toasty brown sugar. Then right in the dead centre of the palate, you've got a big sweet, oily caramel note. Now the barrel aging notes, as I say, they kind of sit in the bready layer, so you get towards the back of the palate, you get the more smoky, peaty sort of Scotch whisky type thing, so you get that smoky, grassy smoke. On top of that, or further forward, you'll get the more brown, sugary, rummy notes, and then right in the dead centre is where you'll get that kind of herbally, mezcal, tequila type thing. So the way the malty side of this beer goes together is really quite quirky and interesting. And I have to say, I do like it. Let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer. So back corners of the palate, definitely a wee bit of earthiness there though. Remember, when it's a barrel aged beer, a lot of the hoppy character will have dropped out of this. But yeah, as you come further forward on the palate, there is a little bit of floral aromaticity there. Round the front curve of the palate, a little bit lighter and grassy, and the grassiness is quite wet and fresh on it. And then on that front third of your palate, that's where you get the fruity part of the beer. So back third of that the back of that front third of your palate, definitely some nice big cakey notes in there, a bit of a dry, toasty cake underneath, and the fruity notes are nice. Sharp raisin, figs in there as well, definitely some prunes and dates and stuff like this. Then as you go further forward, you start to get the kind of you start to get that sort of more dry apricot, sultana type thing. And in the very front of your palate, a little bit of blackberry underneath and an oily, black currant underneath and an oily blackberry on top. But that's a lovely, lovely Imperial stout, quite quirky, and I like the sort of herbally notes from the mezcal, the agave. Come out a little bit later on, but you also get that toasty, peaty, smoky sort of thing from this too. But it's a lovely tasting Imperial stout. This, in terms of the malt, in terms of the mouthfeel, this one though, to round off, I'd say kind of middle of the road, full-bodied, smooth carbonation. A little bit slick, it has a wee bit of slickness to it, but in terms of IBUs, I think this is maybe a 60-70 IBU stout. But at the same time, it's got a lot of sweetness to it. The malt base is smooth and sweet. The barrel aging gives you a lot of sweetness as well, but you've also got those lovely, big, oily, juicy, fruity characters too. So yeah, lovely Imperial stoutness, and a very nice way to round off a nice kind of lunchtime afternoon here at Põhjala Taproom. So let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Gone Camping, a Scotch rum and mezcal barrel aged Imperial stout at 11.5% for the Cellar Series, an absolute monster. Make sure you try some of these from Põhjala if you get the chance. But we'll go outside, I'll give you my final thoughts on my time here at Põhjala, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Alright guys, so finished up now at Põhjala. It was a good time. We ate lots of meat, we had lots of beer, and now we're going to go away for a wee walk. In total I paid I think €50 for the food and about €21 for all the beer and stuff, so pretty good value actually. And now we've got Einar trying to hide behind the camera, and we've got Elise and Larissa chilling there. What have you got?
It's a moon!
It's a moon, yeah, it's a moon. But as long as he doesn't moon the camera, that's okay. But catch you guys in the next one. He's got a sexy arse, he does. But yeah, catch you guys in the next one. Hope you enjoyed this. A nice little spontaneous afternoon at Põhjala Taproom in the Noblessner shipyard, northern Tallinn. Terve sex.